much for joining us. And we begin tonight with President Trump. Two words that continue to sound wrong together, sort of like horse pope or Dr. Oz. And this was a week of diplomacy for the president, or as it turned out, the opposite of that.
President Trump hosting Chancellor Angela Merkel at the White House today. Will be their first face-to-face meeting since Mr. Trump ridiculed the chancellor on the campaign trail, accusing her of, quote, ruining Germany.
Wow. Well, first, that is a major insult, because historically, the title of Chancellor synonymous with ruining Germany is pretty much taken. And second, it's got to be awkward to meet someone that you've talked so much shit about. Personally, that is why I never leave the house, because I know Johnny Depp is somewhere out there, presumably vaping into a supermodel's vagina while he mansplains acting. And if you are thinking that Trump made an extra effort to smooth things over, you would be wrong, because watch what happened when the media at a photo op made a very routine request.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, shake her hands, you weird man! It is not often that you can genuinely say Trump really should have touched that woman. Because, look at him. He's just staring straight ahead, refusing to make eye contact. He's treating the Chancellor of Germany like a drunk guy masturbating in a subway car. And it did not get any less tense at their joint press conference, because as you probably know, Trump has been standing by his nonsensical claim that President Obama had him wiretapped. And when a German reporter asked him about that, he tried to pull Merkel into it with him.
As far as wiretapping, I guess, by, this past administration, at least we have something in common, perhaps.
Now, what that very funny joke is referring to is the allegation that the US had monitored Merkel's phone, and she is not amused by that. In fact, that may be the most uncomfortable a US president has ever made her, and I will remind you, George W. Bush once gave her an unsolicited surprise back rub. And it wasn't just Germany dragged into Trump's wiretapping mess, because his press secretary and special guest on the Gilmore Girls reboot, Melissa McCarthy, suddenly brought a British spy agency into it too.
Sean Spicer, the president's press secretary, has backed claims that GCHQ was involved in tapping phones for Barack Obama.
He didn't use the NSA, he didn't use the CIA, he didn't use the FBI, and he didn't use the Department of Justice. He used GCHQ.
Wow. Now, that is going to piss off the British, and you do not want to piss off the British, because if you do, we will say, oh dear, shake our heads, swallow the anger, and carry it around until we die. Because think about what he's actually alleging there. He is suggesting a US president enlisted a foreign intelligence service to spy on a political adversary. That is an explosive charge. Perhaps that is why the NSA's deputy director told the BBC it was arrant nonsense, revealing a complete lack of understanding in how the relationship works. And for their part, GCHQ called the accusations utterly ridiculous. And yet, rather than distancing himself from Spicer, Trump decided to back him up.
All we did was quote a certain very talented legal mind who was the one responsible for saying that on television. That was a statement made by a very talented lawyer on Fox. And so you shouldn't be talking to me, you should be talking to Fox.
No, we should be talking to you about it, because you're the fucking president and you're repeating it. He only said it because he heard it on television is barely an acceptable excuse for why your parrot said a racial slur. No, we've been watching The Wire. We've been watching The Wire. Oh, and so you know, that very talented legal mind that Trump's talking about is this guy, Fox News contributor Judge Andrew Napolitano, a man whose persona is so overwhelmingly non-authoritative, I just assumed he was a judge in the Judge Reinhold sense of the word. Spicer was quoting Napolitano directly, and even by Fox's standards, the judge is an unreliable source. He has a history of entertaining dicey conspiracies. He once questioned whether bin Laden was actually killed, and a few years ago, he went on Alex Jones's show and said this regarding the World Trade Center.
It's hard for me to believe that it came down by itself. I think 20 years from now, people will look at 9/11 the way we look at the assassination of JFK today. It couldn't possibly have been done the way the government told us.
What a very talented legal mind. And it is frankly telling that even Fox News anchor Brett Baer didn't stand behind the story.
We love the judge. We love him here at Fox. But the Fox News division was never able to back up those claims.
That is like how you talk about a racist grandparent. We love Nana, we love her very much, but we cannot stand behind the things she says, nor would the rest of us use those specific words. Also, she has been watching The Wire. She's been watching The Wire. If Stringer Bell can say it, why can't she? That's her point. And you know, if Fox News admits a story is bullshit, then it is bullshit. So all the Trump team had to do was apologise and move on, and they were so close to doing that.
A senior administration official said earlier today Spicer and National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster offered what amounted to an apology to the British government. But Spicer later disputed that, saying the administration had no regrets.
That is Sean Spicer saying he has no regrets, which is amazing, because if anyone on this planet should have fucking regrets, it is you, Madam Ghostbuster. You should regret everything, every life decision that brought you into this regretful job that you regretfully hold. At this point, you should really be more regrets than man, a regretator, if you will, half man, half regretful beast, cursed to roam the planet until one day you're finally released from your prison by the inevitable firing you'll receive in, let's say 2.5 weeks, shall we? And look, there is no evidence for Trump's claims. There is no discernible motivation for the British government to be part of this. Just the word of a mid-transition werewolf with questionable views on 9/11. And yet, none of that seems to matter to Trump, and I could tell you why, but I think I'll let Fareed Zakaria do it for me.
I think the president is somewhat indifferent to things that are true or false. He has spent his whole life bullshitting. He has succeeded by bullshitting. He has gotten the presidency by bullshitting. It's very hard to tell somebody at that point that bullshit doesn't work, because look at the results, right?
Yeah. Donald Trump is a bullshit artist. And I know Trump might want to refute that. But to be fair, someone on TV did say it, and I am repeating it, so therefore it must be true. And now, this.
And now, morning news shows celebrating St. Patrick's Day, literally the only way they know how.
And top of the morning to you. We're live. And a great Friday morning, St. Patty's Day to you.
Top of the morning.
Top of the morning to you.
St. Patrick's Day.
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning there.
Top of the morning to you, Wendy.
Top of the morning to you, Bill.
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning to you, lad and lasses.
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning to you, laddies.
Officers determined the victim was shot on Denver Avenue. Officers on the scene say they located blood on the car and weapon. We will bring you more information as it becomes available.
Well, top of the morning to you.
Moving on. For our main story tonight, we wanted to take a quick look at the federal budget. The only beach read less appropriate than Bill Cosby's Little Bill one dark and scary night. And this week, Donald Trump, a man who constantly promised that he would run America like a business, gave us our clearest sense yet of how he plans to do that.
The president revealing his new budget proposal just moments ago.
It is promising the most dramatic change in the federal government since World War II.
This is a budget blueprint from the President of the United States, a document that he puts out there. It is his wish list. It is the way that he would like the government to be funded and what his priorities are.
Yes, this budget is simply a blueprint, what's known in Washington as a skinny budget, which sounds like a line item that Trump might have included in one of his prenups. So try and think of it, this budget, as a presidential mood board. The mood board of a president whose mood can always be described as impatient, vain, and horny for malice. So what is in this thing?
The budget blueprint calls for a $54 billion increase in defense spending. Take a look at this graphic. On the left, you see departments getting an increase. That would be defense, Homeland Security, Veterans Affairs, the agencies facing cuts, the Environmental Protection Agency, the State Department, the Agriculture Department, the Labor Department, Health and Human Services, and the list goes on and on.
You know what? It is sort of fitting that the list of budget cuts scroll by like the end credits for America. Thanks for helping us out, Agriculture Department. Hope you find a gig with the next country that rises from our ashes. And while this budget is very unlikely to pass in its current form, it is worth taking just a few minutes to look at it. Partly because it gives us a clear sense of our president's priorities, but also because it gives us a chance to get to know yet another one of the Trump administration's key characters. Because we've met most of them by now. There's Steve Bannon, a wealthy former Goldman Sachs banker who somehow constantly looks like he just woke up on a park bench after losing custody of his children. There is Kellyanne Conway, the brave survivor of a terrorist attack she completely made up. And there's Stephen Miller, the least popular boy at vampire school. Well, for this budget, we got to know Mick Malaney, whose name, when spoken in my accent, sounds like what you'd call a random Irish person if you're trying to get him to fight you. He is the director of the Office of Management and Budget, and I'll let him give you just a glimpse into the highly scientific process by which he put this budget together.
We came at it, actually wrote the budget by going through the president's speeches, going through the interviews he had given and talking to him directly and finding out what his priorities were. We took those words, those policies, and turned them into numbers.
Yeah. Basically, Mulvaney treated Trump's past statements the way Trump treats women, randomly singling out a few of them and then reducing them down to numbers. But that cannot have been easy when you think about it, because translating the noises that come out of Trump's face into hard policy prescriptions is almost impossible. Take this statement on military spending.
You're going to make the country rich again and strong again so that you can afford it, and so you can afford military and all of the other things.
I don't know what that was. To be honest, it sounds like the audiobook of A Farewell to Arms broadcast by an iPhone submerged in hot coffee. But apparently Mulvaney heard increased defence spending by $54 billion because that is what he's proposing. And as for the budget's funding for nuclear weapons, they presumably had their basis in statements like this one.
Putin has built up their military again and again and again. Their military is much stronger. He's doing nuclear. We're not doing anything. Our nuclear is old and tired, and his nuclear is tippy-top, from what I hear.
Again, I don't know how you turn that into policy. Let's trickle-dickle some money bunnies into our boom-boom budget. We're aiming for tippy-top people, because remember, we're talking about the most lethal weapons in the history of mankind. So if we can, tippy-top. Now, that apparently means a $1.4 billion increase for the National Nuclear Security Administration, while cutting the Department of Energy's overall budget by $1.7 billion. But to be honest, I can't be certain, because I don't speak fluent toddler psychopath. Now, these cuts have made headlines for their severity, but no one can say they're surprised by who is on the receiving end of some of the worst of them. For instance, his 31% cut to the EPA is really just making good on some pretty clear words.
Environmental protection, what they do is a disgrace. Every week they come out with new regulations. They're making it impossible.
Who's going to protect the environment?
We'll be fine with the environment. We can leave a little bit, but you can't destroy businesses.
We can leave a little bit of the environment. Specifically, this fish, this bit of crabgrass in Utah, and one of these meerkats. So don't get too attached, one on the right. And look, there is nothing wrong with cuts in principle. But with budgets, as with haircuts, it's where and how you cut that matters. And believe me, I say that as a grown man who had bangs on national television for 7 years. Cool? Cool. And it is important to note, non-defence discretionary spending is already at its lowest level relative to GDP in over 15 years, lower than any year of Reagan's presidency. And that's what makes something like Trump's proposed 28% cut to the budget for the State Department and USAID so frightening. Although Secretary of State Rex Tillerson doesn't seem that worried about it, and one of the reasons he gave for that was a little surprising.
What the president is asking the State Department to do is, I think, reflective of a couple of expectations. One is that as time goes by, there will be fewer military conflicts that the U.S. will be directly engaged in.
Whoa. Hold on there. You honestly think we're going to have fewer military conflicts under President Trump? There is simply no way that is true. He just needs one person to tell him that World War I was called the Great War, and he's going to want to have a better one out of sheer pettiness. And making big cuts to things like the State Department, international development, and the EPA isn't just short-sighted, it doesn't even make fiscal sense. The EPA is currently responsible for 0.2% of federal spending, and the State Department and USAID are 1.4%. So you don't cut those agencies as a cost-saving measure, you do it as a fuck you. It is the budgetary equivalent of inviting Mitt Romney out to dinner at Jean-Georges before not offering him a cabinet position. And I will say, that was awesome, by the way. Trump is so consistently monstrous, sometimes out of sheer coincidence, he happens to do something amazing. Trump is truly the stopped clock of arseholes. But his pettiness extends even further when it comes to some of the tiny items his budget eliminates funding for, like the National Endowments for the Arts and the Humanities and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which last year made up less than 0.02% of federal spending. But according to Mulvaney, it is unfair to expect people to even pay that much.
When you start looking at the places that will reduce spending, one of the questions we asked was, can we really continue to ask a coal miner in West Virginia or a single mom in Detroit to pay for these programs? The answer was no. We can ask them to pay for defense, and we will, but we can't ask them to continue to pay for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
OK, that argument isn't just insulting, it's absolutely ridiculous. Because while, yes, the military keeps single mothers safe, on a day-to-day basis, Bob the Builder is an actual lifesaver for them. Declan, honey, Mommy's gonna lie down for a little bit while you watch yourself some Bob. He's the only man I trust anymore. And if your real concern is for the hard-earned dollars of single mothers and coal miners, let's break that down, shall we? Because if your single mother needs to work and her child attends a school, she might need access to something like Wings for Kids, an after-school program that serves 1,600 children in 3 states. And guess what?
Under President Trump's new proposed federal budget, Wing's primary source of funding would be eliminated. Bridget Laird is the CEO.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel devastated.
Jessica Williams has 2 daughters in the program.
What happens if it goes away?
I really don't know how I could. I really don't know. I will be lost.
OK, so that is a really bad cut. And again, I say that as a man who no one stopped from going into a Supercuts with a photo of Demi Moore in Ghost and saying, this, but worse. And as for Mick Mulvaney's hypothetical coal miners, let's take a look at what Trump's budget cuts from the Appalachian Region.
One of those programs at risk of losing all funding is the Appalachian Regional Commission, which funded 35 different projects and programs in Tennessee alone last year.
35 programs in just Tennessee. And that list includes things like the Healthier Tennessee Communities Initiative, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Tennessee Valley, and the Governor's Books from Birth Foundation, all of which contain so many positive words. I'm presuming that also in line for cuts are the Kids Kitten Hard Hat Alliance and the Grandma's Wish Coalition for warm cookies straight from the oven. The cookies will be thrown away, the grandma will be put down. And by the way, those cuts are coming in a state that went for Trump, which leads us to the weirdest thing of all here. Some of the cuts in Trump's budget heavily impact groups that voted for him.
The one that strikes me is rural airports. We spend money to help subsidize rural airports where they otherwise couldn't have air service. Now, maybe that doesn't make any sense in an ideal world. Maybe on principle that's a bad thing. But the people who are going to lose their airports if we stop doing that are the people who voted for Donald Trump.
So think about that. Trump's rise was fueled by people in red states who were justifiably irritated that Liberals sometimes refer to them as flyover country. But this budget could literally turn some of them into flyover country because there would be no other option. And even some Republicans are now wary of this budget. Hal Rogers, a Republican and former chair of the House Appropriations Committee, went so far as to call many of the cuts draconian, careless and counterproductive. And a Republican saying that about budget cuts is like a toddler telling you, this balloon fucking sucks. Really? I really thought you liked those. And look, Trump's defenders will say that this is just him being a businessman. It's a first offer, it's a negotiation, the sort of thing that you could learn all about in his book, The Art of the Wait, I seem to be betraying everyone who supported me. Oh, well, forget it. Anyway, let's talk about all the trim I got in the 80s, right, fellas? Hungermonger. But if anything resembling this budget passes, many of Trump's own voters will likely wind up getting burned, and they are going to be angry, and Trump himself should know that, given that, in The Art of the Deal, he said this.
You can't con people, at least not for long.
You can create excitement, you can do wonderful promotion and get all kinds of press. And you can throw in a little hyperbole. But if you don't deliver the goods, people will eventually catch on.
Oh, I think people are catching on. It's taking longer than is perhaps ideal, but I think pretty soon all of us will be fed up, right up to the tippy fucking top. And now, this.
And now, a special St. Patrick's Day moment from Fox and Friends.
Today's St. Patrick's Day, so we'll be celebrating throughout, but it doesn't mean... What did you just do?
I just moved the leprechaun. I didn't realize there was a leprechaun behind me.
Sitting between us.
Remember a couple of years ago when we actually had a leprechaun on the show with Judge Napolitano sat on his lap?
Right. I don't think that video's available anymore.
Oh, you wish that video wasn't available.
Let's go over to Judge Andrew Napolitano with a special...
Hey, I got my new buddy here from the University of Notre Dame.
How are you, Judge?
Howdy, all right. Good to see you.
Oh, what a fun memory.
We hired this leprechaun off of Craigslist.
There's your first mistake.
And you know what? You get exactly what you pay for.
Fuck you.
And finally this week, before we go, I know the world is a bleak place right now, so we wanted to leave you with a happy story, and it involves Bolivia, a country you think about so little, you don't even realise that's not Bolivia, that's Colombia, except it isn't, that's Venezuela. That is Colombia, except it isn't, that's Bolivia, which is the one we were looking for in the first place. Which one's Colombia? There is simply no way to know. The point is, the Bolivian city of La Paz has had long-standing problems with their roads, including traffic jams and a high rate of fatal accidents. And I know that you're thinking, wait, hold on. Your happy story involves fatal car accidents in Bolivia. Well, wait. Trust me, because this is the solution they came up with.
Appropriating the image of the crosswalks called zebras and dressed in a costume of the animal by the same name, these young people have been going into the street of the city of La Paz for the past 13 years with the goal of educating the citizens with love and changing the chaotic face of the vehicular traffic in this city.
Admit it, you didn't see that coming. Not a single one of you was sitting there going, traffic zebras, I'm calling it traffic zebras. Yes! Now, these zebras don't have policing powers like the ability to issue tickets or make arrests. Instead, they just tease people. And if you look online, and I cannot recommend you do that enough, there is incredible footage of them in action. You can see everything from a zebra holding his head while a man jaywalks, to one dancing and spinning around in front of a speeding van that stops just in the nick of time, to this zebra risking his life to stop a car, to the many, many clips of zebras dancing, every single one of which, especially the last one, is absolutely superb. Watch him throw that down. And at this point, you may be wondering, how did this happen? Well, it was based on a similar program in Colombia, where they dispatched traffic mimes to monitor pedestrians. And as far as having mimes rove around your city, I think we can all agree, no. Not only is it tremendously unpleasant, but being mocked by a mime doesn't even work. All you have to say is, I can talk and you can't. Argument one, you lock him in a glass box and you walk away. But Bolivia has really taken it up a notch with this whole zebra business. The programme started with just 24 of them, and today, in La Paz alone, there are 265. That is a population boom so great it puts actual zebras to shame. And that is saying something, because zebras notoriously have no shame. Put it away. Put it away. That thing is a liability. Tuck it away. And while it may look like fun for people, this is a real job with strict rules.
They explain some of the rules to be zebras, like honor the costume, don't eat when you work, never take your head off.
That is a good rule. Never take your head off. You cannot risk shattering an innocent child's belief that you are a real, free-roaming, bipedal talking equid 6,000 miles from Africa. And by the way, that applies even in interview situations. There are many, many clips of reporters shoving microphones in zebras' faces. Even one with a zebra giving an interview to another zebra.
This is very significant for me. I really like what I'm doing, and it's not just about telling people what to do.
Come on! Every Every interview is improved by a zebra head. There's a lesson for everyone there. Stressful interview with 60 Minutes? Put on a zebra head. Tough questions on the red carpet? You put on a zebra head. Sean Spicer, get yourself a zebra head, man. What is wrong with you? And here's the thing. It doesn't just help with Bolivia's traffic. Many of the people in those costumes really need the work.
Many of the zebras are young people who are recovering drug addicts and alcoholics. It's a way for them to get their lives back on track and to give something back to society.
Look, they're not only getting their lives on track. I'm pretty sure the existence of these zebras is the only thing keeping my life on track right now. And is it any wonder how beloved these cebritas are, considering the attitude that they project?
Nunca deja de ser cebrita. Siempre es cebrita y se lleva esa cebrita del corazón a donde sea que vaya.
Yes, the zebra was inside her the whole time, which admittedly sounds like a description for a very risque YouTube video, but that's not the point. The point is, I've got a few questions here. First, how the hell did no one tell me about this before? I feel like we've been pretty clear on this show about our interest in South American countries you have scant geographical knowledge of and people in animal costumes. And frankly, I have needed this over the last few months. The news has been hard, which brings me to my second question. If zebras can make Bolivian traffic jams bearable, what else could they help with? So here is what we've done. We made our own Bolivian zebra and have been seeing if they can help make painful moments easier to take. And I'll show you how it works. Remember Trump's inauguration? Tough to watch, right? But I'll say this, it's a lot easier to watch with a zebra involved.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
See? It's better, right? Again, it doesn't change anything, but it is easier to watch. Now, this works for moments of frustration, too. Remember how it felt on Tuesday night when Rachel Maddow made you sit through 19 minutes of preamble to get to what amounted to very nearly nothing? Well, you know what could have helped then? A zebra to share your pain.
Somebody has decided to leak a portion of his 2005 tax return, which is how and why we got it tonight. And I am sure it is only the start, but it's a start. And our little piece of it, we just got it. We'll go through it next.
I promise it works for anything. Take Manchester by the Sea. Yeah. Pretty harrowing movie, right? That couple went through hell. You know, if only they weren't so alone.
Maybe you don't want to talk to me. Let me finish. However, my heart was broken. It's always going to be broken. But I know yours is broken too.
Look, I think it's pretty clear. With things in America the way they are now, we need these zebras like never before. And that is why we've uploaded footage of a green screen zebra going through a wide variety of emotions. You can use them however you want, just let us know whatever you did with the hashtag #JustAddZebras. That is our show. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be off next week, back April 2nd. Good night.